Hi, folks. Larry Rolla here. Got a good lineup tonight. Let me bring them on. Freddie.
Hi, everyone.
Trade Martin.
Hey, what's happening, Larry? Freddie, how you doing?
And Greg Peck.
Greg.
Okay, that's it for tonight. Let's go. We got a good show for you tonight. And Trade Martin's going to make an announcement, I was told.
Okay, well, this is it.
Okay.
Freddie and I were discussing this. We want to do a show, and we want, of course, we want Greg on it. We want you on it. And we're going to get as many other guys we can get on it. But it doesn't have to be necessarily the all new guys or all old guys or anything. It could be anybody. Anybody who's driven horses, has a little experience. Like I'm a novice compared to you guys. But anyway, I've driven a number of horses and trained a lot of horses. But listen, our concept is going to be driving the race. What a driver is thinking about, first of all, when he sits right in the sulky, the moment he sits in the sulky, and the moment he comes out of the paddock and gets the announcement from the guy is announcing the race. It says, number one is this, and number two is that, number three is that, and this is after everybody scored down and everything for a while, and now they warmed up, and now they're going to go and score down a little bit, and they're thinking, what are they thinking while they're scoring down? I remember like being in the backstretch, and Vince Bergamo got me on the phone and said, what were you guys talking about back there? He was always trying to catch you with something. Well, you know that, Larry. But anyway, yeah. I said, we were talking about just bullshit, like crap,
Where are we going after the races?
Vince, you know how many times Vince Bergamo called me and asked me? I said, you should have called me before the race. I gave you the numbers. That's what I used to tell him. He hated me and I hated him.
I know you did.
But he called me.
I was godfather for one of his kids. I mean, I was at his house and everything. I went to his wife's funeral. I was very close to Vince, but I know you didn't have a good relationship with Vince. In fact, you had a very nasty relationship with Vince. I know that.
Yeah, because he used to call me after every race, and then I do it more. I pull up to somebody and start talking with them about nonsense, and then right after the race, he'd call me up.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, Vince, why do you keep calling me after the race? If you would have called me before, I could have gave you the numbers. Hit the trifecta. Anyway, this new show you're talking about, are you going to do it on a video or audio? How are you going to do this?
No, we're probably just going to do it audio, actually. We're not looking to get in competition with you, Larry. You're doing a great audio, great visual show, audio and visual show.
I thought we were going to do it on this show is what you meant. No.
Well, we could do it a little bit tonight, too. But
we can share.
But what I'm thinking of doing is talking about what a driver is thinking as he's going to the gate, as he's going away from the gate, and what's his plans, or doesn't he have any plans of how to race a certain horse? I mean, certain horses good, come from behind. Certain horses you go to the top. There's all different stuff, but stuff like that. But I think it could be interesting. I didn't think about it all that much, and Freddie and I didn't discuss it that much, but I think it could be a very interesting concept,
Well, we could talk about that and build on it. I just saw a race the other day. There's about 20 of them out there where the driver has some kind of helmet of a camera on the helmet.
Video cams.
Yeah. The GoPro camera. Yeah.
The other day there was one that was really, really good. Most of them are just bullshit, but the one the other day was really, really good. I would love to get a couple of drivers that are active today to put one of them on, and Hervé did it once on YouTube. He actually narrated the race when he was in it,
right?
Yeah,
and saying maybe I should give this guy a hole, and this way I come first, something like that. That would be very interesting. But the only problem is I don't know any I've been out of it so long, I don't know any drivers today or the young kids today. Oh, I could probably get somebody from Monticello. All them young kids up there I know. All the Mertens.
Like the Mertens and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could probably do that. Uh, that would be, I think that would be exciting, and just tell them to put a couple of cameras on them. So, because this one the other day, I should have.
Well, there's
found a
one
way.
that a Woodbine has called Mic'd Up is one that's been around for a while, but they've been doing it. And you see, I noticed Ronnie Wren, who drives Blueprint, who won the jug and everything. He's got the GoPro ready to go. I must just leave it on his helmet for when they need it, huh?
You're right.
But
right.
it does bring a good dimension to it. I was thinking if we did something like that, you'd have to. The problem with our business now, to me, in television, they have really nobody on who's been there except Randy Waples in Canada, who does a very good job. But down here, what they have is trade window. They just have talent. They have on-air hosts that could kind of they have background harness racing, but they're not really qualified to give an opinion. And frankly, I don't think that I'm qualified to give an opinion on the driving because I was okay at it. But if we could get O'Donnell for sure would be one, and then get one of the younger guys and simulate something with them. I think, but because they have the credentials, the resume. I don't. I can talk about training more, and I know about driving and all the fundamentals, but I'm just thinking for the audience, if we could get that, that'd be the thing to do because
good idea.
None of us are currently at the top of the standings.
I just want to say, one thing. I want to say one thing, then I want to hear more about what Trade has to say. And Freddie, I just want to ask you one thing, Greg. That horse that you have in the picture behind you, I guarantee you that if you were driving that horse, he'd have the same record today as the same record that he has today.
We'll never know, Larry. It's like I say, maybe if somebody else had driven him, maybe if somebody else had trained him, he would have been better, worse, the same. We'll never know because everything really had to happen the way that it did, and it was all orchestrated. But I'm not saying that anybody else could have done it either.
Why didn't you drive him from the beginning? Why didn't you drive him?
I'll tell you how it happened. I had Ronnie Pierce listed to drive him at Gateway at the baby races, and they had baby races that day at.
I want to interrupt
so
here.
Greg,
I want to interrupt here for 1 second, just so the audience knows. We're talking about Muscle Hill, one of the greatest horses ever.
Okay.
That Greg,
just so the audience knows that.
Okay, good.
So they know he made 3.3 million. He won 20 in a row, and you see now he's not just a great horse, or again, he's what you call, as Bob Marks would call, a super horse. Some beach somewhere was a super horse. Now then you have great horses, but they were super horses who also became super stallions, which never happened before because Neville Pride wasn't much of a stallion. Niatros wasn't much of a stallion. So there. But anyway, so I put Ronnie, but he had to go to Chester because he had a bunch of – so I drove him and I finished second. And when I was pulling up, I said to Brian, this is the one you'd want for the Peter Houghton. Really? Yeah. And he liked him. So I said, I'll put you down in the baby race. It was the funniest thing when we get up. On the proof, it said Muscle Hill driver Stephen J. Searle. That's a guy in Illinois. The office just made a mistake, and it should have said Brian J. Sears. But the funny thing is, I always thought, what if he had him enlisted on another one? He drove for Smedshammer a lot the day. He would have had to tell me maybe that he couldn't drive him because of the mistake he thought going up there. So maybe somebody else would end up driving. But everything fell into place. But as far as the tactics of it, what you really have to hand to Brian is he did not take it for granted. And he won 20 in a row by an average of 4 lengths, never in the wrong spot. And I've seen some of them. I mean, they get driven hard, move 2 or 3 times, and they win. But Brian never took it for granted. And he went as slow as he could go, not as fast. We never talked about a record. That's ridiculous. I watched a trotting filly of a friend of a friend's win in 154 at Mohawk. in like her second start, and she had been off for, my gosh, she looked kind of put you in mind of Continental Victory, Ronnie Gerfine. She kind of, and I said, now the only thing is I don't know why the driver would go in 54. He could have won it in 56 or 57. That's what Sears would have done. Would have got the lead, slowed it right down, and then sprinted off easily on the end. But, you know, that was his tactic. But the reason I didn't drive him is because you want to give them the best chance they can. If you think I'm going to stand here and say I was ever as good as Brian Sears or Ronnie Pierce, please come on. And I think you owe it to the horse. I know the old time trainer drivers. I was one of them. My father. It goes on and on and on. But I'll tell you right now, an older gentleman who just died recently said to me that the old guys compared to the new ones today, none of them could drive. Now, and he was an old timer. He worked for Joe O'Brien for years. But he's right. Compared to today, they're just so talented. I know they talk about their handholds back, but no. They have such control. You know, they have them so when they're going fast, they're not pulling hard on them. Kind of like the Thoroughbreds. The faster the Thoroughbreds go, the less they want them on the bit. They don't. They're shutting off there. But that's a long-winded response about Muscle Hill, and I'm happy to see David.
That was a
was
great
the first
answer.
one to check in tonight, Larry. He's a good. I'm glad you're here, David, because you ask good questions. You make the show better. You go ahead. Sorry.
I agree with you 100%. Everything that you just said, you owe it to the horse. I agree 100% with everything that you just said. I still think if you would have drove me, still would have won 20 in a row. But I agree with what you said. He was just a super horse. You're right. He's a super horse.
I got a question quickly you should answer here. Mike says, question for Greg. Is it true Brian Sears said that he could have gone in 149 with Muscle Hill? He wouldn't. We never talked about time. We really never even talked about the horse. I let him do what he was going to do, and I do what I was going to do. But what he did tell me one day, he only ever raced him once. So you probably appreciate this, Mike, was in the Breeders' Crown for 2-year-olds because Explosive Matter came down. They said they were going to beat him. Then Federal Flex, they were going to be, I should say he came down. And Brian came out the door, and I remember I saw Cat in the locker room, Manzi. I said, I was thinking about tightening up the head pole because I know he's going to be brushed and he's going to be going fast around that last turn. And all of the harder you go, the more they'll run in a little bit. So Cat said, well, why don't you ask your driver? I said, you should know. I don't talk to him. I never talked to you when you were driving. It doesn't. You see guys walking drivers out the door and say, he's better than he shows. He trained like a gorilla. And that's why what you see, people get frustrated with the 99-1 shots leaving, and they're mad at the guy for getting in the way. But the poor guy who was only getting 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th choice, the only chance he had was to follow instructions. So, again, as far as the 49, you'd have to think so, Mike, because he was never strongly urged. I mean, Brian would pretty well go that tap, gone. Now, the night of the Breeders' Crown 2-year, he went press. That was about it. In the Hamiltonian, when I told him, he said, we're going to have a good time at Chester next Sunday. They go for $500,000. I said, I know. He said, that'll be fun. We'll easily make 12.5 each. He said, I never even raced them today. Oh, okay, yeah. I said, we're not going. He said, what? I said, he won for $1,500,000 today. Yeah, he won easily. And I'm not going next. He couldn't believe it. Now, that's a couple of things. I don't think anybody else would have done that. I guess I should take some credit. I don't think anybody else would have not gone to a $500,000 race. And I didn't go to the Wellwood when he was at 2. When the Wellwood went for like $750, I didn't go to the Matron, stuff like that. I spaced out his races. Steve Stewart, the breeder who's doing so well now with Hunterdon, says to me all the time, you had to get him ready 3 or 4 times over the season. And I did it. And he was athletic. And probably, as I say, lots of people could have done it, but we'll never know, because how do you know? What if he stepped on a rock? What if you were training him, Larry, and you went over, you went one extra trip and he slipped? Who the heck knows? You'll never know. Right? But they'll all say, I hear it less and less. For years, I had to listen to them. Well, anybody could have trained, but I don't hear it as much now, maybe because I'm not around and, not really in competition with them. But,
All right, let me
Manny says, I got an answer for Manny here. With respect with Dewey and Muscle Hill, go at it. As Hervé would say, again, with respect, Dewey would only be in the post parade with Muscle Hill. Once they got in the actual race, there would be no contest. It wouldn't even be close. So, that's one. Yeah. And they were around the same time. So I could say that, Explosive Matter, I would say, was as good or better than Dewey, but Muscle Hill happened to come along, and Muscle Hill made him not look so good. Ronnie Pierce always thinks Donato would have been the one, because I would say as the public would rank them, they would rank Muscle Hill 1, Donato 2, and Dewey 3. Now, again, Dewey was great and trained and driven by Ray Schnitker, the same guy, which doesn't happen anymore. So you got to give him full credit, full marks for that. He had the guts and he went on and he did it. And he did very well. And he won with it from behind, too, not just on the front end. So he did a good job with it. But I don't really think you'd find anybody, including Ray, that would say that there would be much of a competition there.
Very good. Very good. You see, here, this is what a lot of people, I get a lot of phone calls, and they says, why do you let Greg take over the show? He talks so much. Why? Because he talks about things that make sense. He talks about things that are interesting, and he talks about facts. And
I really don't want to talk everybody, but my friends say that to me. But I said, I'll ask one of you guys a question. You don't say much. What am I going to remember? I trained people how to communicate, to the public via the media. And I wanted to start off the show talking about trade, and you started off talking about me. So what am I going to do?
Now we can talk about
have to react when I saw Mike asking the question. Then Manny says, what I would have liked to have seen okay, so I kind of had to respond to them. We got them over with now. What's this? It's not enough on Dewey at all. I would have liked.
He looks at the comments. I can't do both. That's why I hardly ever look at the comments.
Mike says he owned a horse like Dewey, but Muscle Hill was in a league of his own. I agree with you, Greg, 1,000%. Well, thank you for saying that, Mike. By the way, and I will qualify it this way, and I told Michael on the show last week and the week before, I can't say that when it comes to the aged horses because he didn't race when he was 4 or 5, but he sure looked like when I finished the race in a night. It was just the wind was blowing a gale. His last race at Woodbine, he about looked at me and the horse and said, "Is this it? It's over?" He was that fresh. Yeah, it's over. So I would like to have gone on to France, and I drove in France, and I think he would have been really, really good. Wait now. Greg, you drove a home call stick with me at Harris a while back. He made a break. He was running in Marcusville. You looked like you were 10 lengths best. Okay, how mad was he? Well, there's a wonderful question that I have. Here's what happened, PM. I let him go lead. No, here's what happened. This is true. She was a 2-year-old filly. I didn't want to race her on the lead. So I let Marcus Miller go. He hits the quarter and 30 and change. That's like about 35 of yesteryear. The average first quarter for that class was 29. All right. So she makes a break. I move her out, lose ground, get her back trotting, trot back into the 2-hole. So no violation of the braking rule.
How many lengths were you on top from the rest of the field? At that point, how many lengths were you?
Oh, the two of us were quite a bit ahead, yeah. And then when I went to, so then she got grabbing on it, and when I went to go around, as the Magic Man Billy O'Donnell said, Marcus Miller changed his mind and went like that, and he did. And I know a lot of drivers that say that was a dirty thing that he did, and I'll say it publicly. I hope he's watching it. I really do, because it was an awful thing, and they gave me, a 2-year and $5,000 suspension. The only ones that touched were him and me. You wouldn't believe, or he and I should say, you would not believe what they did. But you know what, PM? Thanks for asking. I don't know if she would have been the best, but she was only young. But thanks for bringing it to the audience attention.
I saw that race.
Back to you, Larry.
I watched it 10 times, and you're 100% right.
Yeah.
What he did was not right.
No, that if you, I'm kind of like Trade will appreciate Trade.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the Donald Trump of harness racing, and I'll tell you what, they come up with things that they do. Nobody else they would have said that. You know what? They never even showed the replay. Can you imagine?
No
Never
kidding.
even showed the replay. No. And Freddie gets Danny Kazmaier on the show, and Danny Kazmaier and I were friends for years. Nobody's ever not seen them show the fact that she was second, disqualified, where she should have been second place for, because she did not interfere with the ones behind her. Sarah Svans had made a break, didn't get out of the way. But anyway, they never even showed the replay. I think they were so embarrassed. And if that wasn't a conspiracy, I don't know what was. I think what was happening is I was starting on the comeback again. I was winning, getting good horses again. I think I won my last 3 at the Meadowlands, and Chester the same thing, because a lot of those guys, as Billy O'Donnell would say, with respect, that drive their own horses, or Ted Wing would say, that guy would be a real guy to go get himself a driver. So there. Where they don't say that about me. None of them will say that. One thing I seem to be able to compete with. If you watch me when I was up at Mohawk and that, it was the same thing. I knew when to move, what to, but I can't say that I could do it 10 times a day, and I was in their league. You know, I was like the Toby Keith song, Trade. You know, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I ever was. So that's probably what that is. But
That's
but
what all
thanks
the girls
for,
say. That's what all the girls say. But listen, Greg, did you ever think of
that's all the
calling?
girls say. Yeah.
Did you ever think of calling your own race? You know, call.
What's that?
I mean, you know, Greg, listen, we love you, but you never stop talking now, you know.
Well, I try not to. See, I think I'd like to. How do I do this? I'll say good night. I want to leave after an hour every week, and then they start on me again. What am I going to do? And again, I start. I know
listen,
you're
you
teasing
should be
me.
doing.
No, we're talking about Trade now.
You
I
should
want
be
to hear
doing your
about
own show,
Get a
though.
Piece of the
Really.
Rock. I want to hear about
Piece of the Rock.
Get a
Yeah,
Piece of
that
the
was
Rock.
me. I
What
got
happened
it.
with that, Trade?
I was, you know, got a
Tell
Clio for
us.
that.
Everybody
went-
remembers that jingle, right? Get a Piece of the Rock for Prudential. Now, Trade,
Well,
tell
you
us.
know, it was first Own a Piece of the Rock. It was called
Right.
Own a Piece of the Rock. But I told them at a big board meeting, and they said, "Oh, no, that's it." I said, "You're going to have a problem with this, you guys." And listen, I'm no lawyer, but I just thought them saying that you're going to own a piece of the rock if you buy a Prudential insurance policy sounded stupid to me. So they had to eventually change it because legally they were having problems. People thought they would own the piece of that Gibraltar rock if they bought a. It's like me thinking because I bet on your horse that I thought I owned a piece of it, you know. But the Gibraltar rock was owned by the policyholders of Prudential, which was bullshit. You know, there wasn't.
But you know,
But
but it worded better anyway, Trade. Don't you think? It just flowed better as a
you
jingle.
can get.
It wouldn't have been as good as if they hadn't been owned. I don't think.
Well,
Because I've heard.
It's a one syllable word.
Watched,
It doesn't matter.
you know, I know a lot of country, and I've watched writers saying just the twist of a word can make or break a song, huh?
Well, that's
Especially
not
with the
true.
chorus.
That's not true. No, really.
No,
That's
okay.
not
All right.
true.
Well, you don't.
I don't think
Yeah.
so. No.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Trade. One
Yeah.
of the things people probably don't know about you is you were nominated for what, 13 or 14 Clio awards?
Yeah, well, at that time, I was doing the Pan Am commercial
Right.
and the TWA Up and Away commercial, which I didn't write. Jim Webb wrote Up and Away, but I used to arrange, produce, and sing all the Up and Away, TWA, all of those. I used to sing all of those, and I did the Pan Am, and I did the Piece of the Rock. Piece of the Rock got nominated a number of times, but the funny thing is, Pepsi, which I used to sing.
What you had a $10 million a year contract with, correct?
No.
Well, $1 million from what I heard. So.
No, that was Ron Burke. Listen, no, that was Ron Burke. No. But I was nominated a number of times, yeah, but I only the Prudential won a couple of times, won that Clio. But Pepsi, I used to sing one time Pepsi that I used to sing beat out my own commercial Piece of the Rock at one Clio Award session.
What
So it was
jingle
weird,
for
but
that
I
thing?
didn't write Pepsi. I used to sing it, but I didn't write it.
What was what was the phrase?
You've got a lot to live. Pepsi's got a lot to give. That one.
Right. Remember.
Yeah.
That's before me.
Yeah, Pepsi. Before you,
I got to
really?
answer a question here, Larry.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Eric says Mackerel Bell won 73 out of 94 starts. John Campbell said best horse he ever drove. I guess that's true, but I can tell you I owned horses with Lou Guida after Muscle Hill, and he agreed that he said that he no. Billy O'Donnell says this about Mackerel Bell: if you could get to him, you could get by him, but he was hard to get to. Remember how Billy beat him with Napolitano in the Kentucky Futurity in Lexington. But the thing about Muscle Hill, again, he had such man. Remember, Mackerel Bell was, running behind the gate, running after, doing stupid things over at where Muscle Hill just didn't do that. He was like Tom Brady. Probably the more pressure that there was, the cooler he became. Because if you ever watch him in the Hamiltonian, which was on NBC, just like that, sleeping, waiting to go out, race came back in and said the same thing. But I answered that. Now back to trade. So I was trying to think. I was listening to Dean Dillon and Hank Cochran, who were great country singers. And I'm trying to think. It wasn't the chair. There was one of them. It'll probably get back to me, where they thought that if they didn't take one word out of the chorus, it just didn't sound right. They said.
Sometimes that's.
So I'm going,
it's
own
true.
a piece of the rock. No, get a piece of the rock. I
It
can't
doesn't
sing.
flow sometimes if you have an extra is or an extra in these phrases. It doesn't flow correctly. So, but I don't think most people would really even notice. Most novices would notice
No.
that,
No.
Let me
But the
say this,
results
hey,
were there.
Greg,
Yeah.
let me say this about Trade Martin, because I always have to say it, because I went out every night of my life to a nightclub, especially when I was young. And Trade Martin had one of the best bands around, but totally unique. He would start at 9:00 and sing until midnight, nonstop. One song
Without a break.
Song ended, he'd turn around and say, "What do you want to do now?" One after another, into another, till midnight. Then he'd take a pee break for about 5 minutes, come back on and sing another for 3 hours until 3:00 in the morning. Unbelievable.
He was like Bruce Springsteen.
No,
Whoa, no, that's what Springsteen does. We're
Springsteen used to come and see me. Greg,
What's that?
Springsteen used to come and see me. The owner used to say, that guy was here last night. What's his name? Springsteen from up in Asbury Park with his guys. They used to come in because they used to close up early up there.
Right.
And they used to come down and see me because Joe Pesci and Frank Vincent were playing around the corner from me. So they would visit them, and then they would come by me. The Bamboo Bar in Seaside Heights was a big.
Yep. Bruce Springsteen bought Carmine Abatello's farm. I don't know if everyone knows that, which basically closed up all the farms in that whole section. So he has like an island of this whole area there. And like Carmine used to say, he loved having Bruce Springsteen as a neighbor because he had 24/7 security. He had all these guys on these 3-wheelers driving around 24/7 to protect the property.
Interesting, huh? Trade.
Yeah.
No. I'm just thinking that when Bruce and them were playing, you mentioned Frank Vincent, who played Phil in The Sopranos, and he was in other movies as well, obviously.
Right.
And then you had Joe Pesci, who's been in many movies. Did they have a band that they played together?
Yeah, they had a duo. They had a duo. Okay. Yeah. They worked around the corner from me. Yeah.
Imagine what actors they became. Well, especially Pesci, So May Hollywood, where Frank Vincent really, you notice him in a lot of the mob movies now that you know who he is, but you really found out who he was as
You
Phil.
know, all of them guys, their first movies was the movie that Trade Martin made.
Yeah,
No
that
one
one,
knows
the one I was
Hey,
sent to the
hey,
producer.
hey, Trade, didn't
Yeah.
Frank Vincent murder you?
Yeah, he murders me in that movie.
Oh, I
Do
Yeah.
you,
saw
do you,
that.
do
He
you have
has
that
been
clip
murdered,
up there, Larry, any place?
I saw it.
He has been
Hey,
murdered.
no,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't the
Larry,
movie you
do you
told me
have
about.
that
Was it
clip?
Larry? No.
It's
What
up
movie
on
was that?
YouTube.
Do you have the clip of Frank Vincent murder and trade?
It's up
No,
on
I didn't
YouTube.
know. I didn't know. I could get it. You know, Frank Vincent's supposed to be my partner on this show here, but he, you know, naturally, unfortunately, he died. But if Frank was here, we would have all them. We would have all them things. But Frank Vincent and Joe Pesci, and naturally Trade Martin, all of these guys around here, they all grew up together. But Joe Pesci started out as a barber. Frank
Right.
Vincent started out as a
A
thief
drummer.
and a drummer. Yeah, but they had between him, Muzzy, and all of them guys, Chang Lee. They must have had 20 bands that they went through together. And I'm going to tell you something now that you don't know, and this is the truth. I trained horses for a guy called I forgot his name. Anyway, he was married to a girl from Flushing called Vicky, and in fact, he had a decent pacer. So the horse started with an R. Jerry Hayde, his name was, and
I know, Jerry.
he was married. He was married to a girl called Vicky. They got a divorce. I knew both of them very well. He got a divorce, and Vicky wound up going with Jake LaMotta. Jake LaMotta, and I got Vicky's son and a license to drive. So up in Monticello. So what happened was Vicky comes up to see her son, his first parimutuel drive. I got him his license, and she brings with him Jake LaMotta. So they sit at my table, and she says, Jake's looking for a lot of guys. Could you get me guys like Ronnie and Gracia, yourself, and 3 or 4 other guys? With Robert De Niro's living with us in our apartment in the Village, and every night we go out and he's learning all about boxing and the language, Italian accent, and all that stuff. And so they asked me to get Ronnie, to get Louis, to get a couple other guys that want to be in this movie. They just want regular guys. So I told them this. I says, listen, Atlantic City's opening. All of them guys, Chang Lee and Muzzy and Pat Gallo and Joe Pesci,
They're going to be down there.
all of them guys are filming their acts because they all want to get into the lounges in Atlantic City when it opens. I says, go back home. I says, I'm not going to do it. I says, I'm not interested in being an actor. I says, but go back home, see Frankie Vincent, go see Pesci, and they filmed all their acts, and because Pesci also did a comedy act with Pat Gallo. He did a comedy act with Frankie
Right.
Vincent. He did a lot of stuff with a lot of, especially with Muzzy and Chang Lee. So anyway, that's what they did, and they went and they looked up the film, and that's how Pesci got that job. And then that's he brought along Frankie Vincent, but that's how Pesci first got the job. But the first movie I think Frankie Vincent was ever on was your movie, wasn't it, Trey?
Well, no, he was on a number of them before, but you know, I got him in that movie, and he got Big Pussy. What's his name? Forget his name right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He got
Yeah.
Big Pussy to be
I
in the
know
movie.
you mean. Yeah.
So,
What movie was that, Trade? Because I saw the
it's
scene
called
last week or
it's
something.
called West New York. West New York. It's on YouTube. You can see it on YouTube. Yeah.
Hey, Trey,
break it up again. What's it called?
didn't you recently have an AI Betsy do a pro Trade Martin thing for you?
Yeah, well, a friend of mine from Canada did that. He's really good.
It really is.
He does a lot of great stuff. I'll tell you, with all the big movie actors and stuff like that. You got to look at his stuff, Larry and Greg. His name is Chris Dallas, and it's Chris
I
Dallas
think
Creations.
Larry showed it on his show a couple weeks back, didn't you?
What are you talking about? I don't know.
The
By the
Petsy,
way,
the
Mike
Petsy
just
thing,
said
Petsy
this.
thing, where
Or
Trade
sorry,
Martin tribute.
877 just said Vincent. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Break it up.
Vincent Pastor. That's Big Pussy.
That
Yeah, that's
story,
it. Big
yeah,
Vincent
that's what I was
Pastor.
trying to say.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
What were you saying, Freddie?
The Trade Martin tribute that was done by Petsy. The
Joe
AI
Pesci.
one.
Yeah. By Joe.
You put that
yeah,
up
the
on your
AI
show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, do I have that? I wonder if I
Yeah.
still have that.
It was great. It was really great.
Yeah, well, that guy Chris Dallas does that. He does all those big. He makes digital clones of all the big actors, and he puts up. He does a lot of great stuff. He's really a good journalist. He's an investigative journalist.
Hey, how much does one of them cameras cost? I'm gonna ask them Merton kids to put cameras on there. Where did they put that? Where did they put the camera on the helmet?
Yeah, they just strap it. It just straps right around the helmet.
On
Yeah.
the peak. On the peak.
All
Look
right,
down at the peak of the
I'm
helmet.
gonna get that done, and
Only $300 or $400.
I'm gonna get that done, and I'm gonna and then maybe if I get it done by next Thursday, I'll put them on. Then if it works out good, and I'll tell them just like Hervé did it in that one race to just say
To
what's
do a dialogue while they're racing.
yeah.
Well, Manny mentioned earlier, that is true. Mark McDonald has done several of them, you see, who drives for Ray Schnitger. It says, tell us, Manny, what is it, Mark on the mic or something, or Mark mic'd up? If you're there, let us know.
I think he
I've
has a
seen him.
podcast.
Mark's from Prince Edward. They're all from the next province over to me, so I know all the McDonalds, of course.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. But the McDonald family of Marks, I mean, Mark, Anthony, and James are three brothers that are well-known horses. And Curtis, the brother, has what you call Cujo Entertainment, and he does all of the technical video work for those types of things for him.
Well, years ago, I spoke to, I forget, it was Chris. He was up at the Meadowlands, or his name was Chris something. He was one of the head guys at the Meadowlands with Joe DeFrank, and I told Joe DeFrank too, and Joe thought it was a good idea, but this got to be 20 years ago. I said, listen, I'd love to have a guy with a mic, a wireless mic, we get John Campbell or somebody with a wireless mic in the race. This is 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
And he's going to talk about, well, I'm going to come out now. Now I'm going to go to the outside. I'm going to come second over. I'm going to go first over. I'm going to tuck now and or whatever. I'm going to pull the plugs at the three-quarter. It was going to be interesting. And they liked the idea, but we never got to do it.
But it was a good idea, though.
Oh, thanks. But I heard that.
Well, no, you keep.
What?
The more I talk to you, like it. Does it ever stop? No, seriously, you record all day, every day, don't you?
I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm working on some new stuff. That's unbelievable. I just finished a record. Larry will love this, and Freddie too. And you remember a record called "Stranded in the Jungle"?
No,
it was by a group called, I'm not sure what the group was called, the Silhouettes maybe. And the guy said, I was stranded in the jungle, trying to get my date after my plane crashed in the jungle. And black guy talking, and it's really good. It's really a good record. And I redid the record, and I got a new video on it. I'm going to put it up. I'll put it up tonight. It's finished, and I'll put it up tonight. You're going to kick out of it. Stranded in the Jungle. It was a big record. It was around 1956 or 57. I was only 13 years old.
Trade. I just thought of the song. George Strait, who has like 70 number ones, right? The King of Country. Dean Dillon and Hank Cochran were drunk out on the boat, right? And they were like, Dean Dillon wrote a lot for him. But the one they were talking about was oceanfront property in Arizona. And it says, and if you'll buy that, I'll throw the Golden Gate Bridge in free. And they said there's something not right about that. So they took bridge out. If you'll buy that, I'll throw the Golden Gate in free. And they thought it made a much better song than if they had left Bridge in there. And they said everybody's going to know what the Golden Gate is anyway.
That's
So
true.
that's the
That's
song
true.
I was thinking about words, and I still think the Get a Piece of the Rock, the Get has something to it, you know.
Well, originally it was
So if
Own a
another
Piece
other
of
one,
the Rock. Right, it was Own a Piece of the Rock. It was originally. That's how it was originally written.
yeah, you said that.
And it
Yeah.
was originally recorded, and
Yeah.
and the promo came out like that. The commercial came out like that, and then they had to change it legally to Get a Piece of the Rock. So that's the story there, whatever it is. But getting back to the racing thing, when we talk about guys racing, I don't think it takes that much for a guy to be able to steer and drive a horse in a race. I mean, certain guys do excel at knowing, having the right pressure on the lines and be able to keep the flow of a horse going so they don't keep stopping the horses. There's guys that keep on, you see them check the horse and they go back, and the horse doesn't even know what he wants to do. He's just saying to himself, what does this guy want? He says, you want me to go? You want me this way? But I feel the flow, a really great driver gets the flow of the horse rolling, and he very rarely has to take back on a horse. He just keeps the horse rolling, and doesn't go always as fast as he can go, but he keeps the horse rolling forward. So he's not just grabbing into the horse and taking him back, and then going with the horse and taking him back and go in and out. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But that's my novice.
Now there's not much stop and go. Now they just go, huh?
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Trade.
Well,
Yeah,
the
it's going
strategy, the strategy isn't there like it used to be. So that portion has changed. And it's mostly because they're going so fast now, and all the horses can go so fast.
Right.
Like if you get away eighth now, you're finished. Where years ago you had a shot. It's just so different now racing. So, and you, as a driver who raced in the 70s and 80s, you would have to adjust. Hey, Larry. Okay. Larry's microphone is dead and he's frozen. And so let me just see something. I see him with a mute here.
Well, Manny says something. I think he said all he has to do is leave and come back in the lobby, like come back into the show.
Did you hear that, Larry? Manny said leave and come back into the show.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, seems.
I was gonna. I just totally screwed up over here myself. So, Larry, I lost him.
I don't think he can hear us.
It happened last week too.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something.
Hey, I tell you, remember the credit I gave you too. George Jones considered to be probably Frank Sinatra always claimed the next best singer to him was George Jones. That was the quote.
Did he? I never heard that. That's great. That's
yeah.
great.
Oh yeah. He stopped loving her today.
Oh, that's a killer song. I almost had that
it
finished.
and you recorded it.
I almost have it finished. I don't have it finished yet.
Yeah,
but I got a great record on it.
I've heard you on YouTube. I've seen you do it or hear it. I've heard it.
I did a little bit of it. I did a little bit of it, but I didn't finish it yet. Yeah.
What I heard was pretty darn good because it's a very hard song to sing. Alan Jackson sang it at George's funeral. I didn't think he could sing it at all. Very hard to sing that song. Wouldn't you agree?
Really. No, not really. No. Okay. I mean, it's very hard to sing it as well as George Jones did it. Let's put it that way. But George Jones did a killer job on it.
Well, you like doing New York after Frank Sinatra, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah. How can you do it better? Like
that's true. You're right. Or My Way. Yeah. On My Way.
Freddie, Larry.
But Trade. I know you won the Grammy for Peace on the World.
Peace of the World. Peace of the World. Yeah. The BB King record.
Were you nominated, or did you win any other Grammys, or just that one?
No. Just that was. I just won a Grammy as a producer of that particular song, not as an artist or anything, because I wrote that and produced that for B.B. King. B.B. King actually won the Grammy, but me as a producer, I get a copy of the Grammy too. I'm like listed as another Grammy winner because BB won the Grammy as an artist, and I was the producer and the arranger of the song and the writer. So I got a plaque as a Grammy winner.
You didn't get one of those little RCA things with the speaker and
No,
stuff?
no, I didn't get one of those.
That
No,
weighs
no.
like 20 pounds?
Yeah, no, I didn't get one of them.
Trey, how did you get
Yeah.
into music? How did you get into music?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I started when I was real. I was really lucky because my father was always he used to sing a little bit, but he wasn't never professional. And my mother used to sing a little bit too. But my father always had a tape recorder around the house, always since I was 5, 6
Oh.
years old. And we also had a disc recorder where we could record actual discs. We used to buy acetate discs. And I still have the recorder. I still have it. It's probably worth around $1,000 now, but it's a big, clunky thing. And we used to be able to cut right to a disc. Yeah. So I was around recording all the time. So I grew up recording.
So that's what got you in the mode of recording then?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, and you still, till this day, it runs through your veins, so you get up and do it easily, probably.
I'm very lucky. Yeah, and I got a really good setup here in my studio.
Well, no, it's you have the touch. It's the same with a horse. You know,
That's true.
I with humility will say I've been lucky that way to kind of have a touch and know what they are and what they aren't. You know,
right?
You know, some guys do, and I think it's the drivers that the same way that, you know, a lot of them, they can get behind a horse and just in post parade a little bit, they get the feel of the horse and they're kind of ready to go, really. But the horses, they steer so well today and everything. It's not like it was.
Yeah, no, of course not. No,
and remember, and they have their own sulkies today, so they can get comfortable, you know, whatever way they want. Where years ago, you know, you might have Cat Manzi driving a sulky that George Schulte drove in the week before. You know,
and your knees are up to your ears on it.
Yeah, be careful. You're tall too, Freddie, so you notice it too. You know, fun.
Remember, I remember I trained for Insco, so I had to get in some of those bikes that the short stirrups, and all of a sudden my knees
you're
are
tall.
all up here. And I like my legs stretched out. So
right, you're tall. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're tall. Insco is small, but I always had my own sulky. When I started racing, I got my own sulky right away. You know, but I was lucky because I had the money. I had the money to do it. A lot of guys don't have the money to do it, but I had like 2 or 3 sulkies. I was first to really drive in a modified. The guy died that made the first modified that I drove in. He was from New Egypt, and a lot of guys know who this guy was, but I don't remember his name. But he made me a special modified bike that I drove in the matinee.
Thanks, Tom.
Barry's back.
What's that?
was that Joe King you're thinking of?
No, it wasn't Joe King. No. But I heard he was found in the car dead or something. It was in New Egypt. And,
one of the funniest ones is I got a picture of it someplace was Quint Galbraith driving one of the first modified sulkies ever made, which was double shafts. It was basically two single shaft sulkies that were put together to make one, and it was real comical. And I was there the night that he was racing, and Jack Carlino was the paddock judge at that point. And if anyone knows who Jack Carlino was, and you know, his brother was Speaker of the House at that time, Joe Carlino, but Jack was just like, he's looking out, what the hell is that effing thing?
Well, Larry drove in.
Larry
drove in a single shaft.
That's what I was going to ask. I would ask if anybody drove with a single shaft.
Larry did, definitely did. I never did, but they had a single shaft.
I never did, and if I did, I would have tied the tail down.
No, I did. I did only because Webster had one in, and he didn't. He called up. He asked me. He wasn't going to show up, so he asked me to drive him. And the groom shows up with a single shaft. So I hopped in one. I didn't like it only because I never even sat in one before. But I and the horse won, and but I didn't like it, and I didn't like them. I guess maybe if I would have got used to it, but when you never even sat in one, and then all of a sudden they call the 8th race out, and you're down to drive a horse you never saw.
You're in it, yeah.
Like that you never sat in before. It's I didn't like it.
But you win with it.
Yeah,
That's good. You win with the horse. That's great.
Yeah,
You
get lucky every once in a while, Trade.
What's that?
yeah, you didn't. You make your own luck, Larry. You made your own luck. Don't worry. I know what Those guys, they get
I'm
lucky
sorry,
in the
Trey, I
music
can't hear you
business
right
too.
Hey, Larry, can you put the Bill O'Donnell thing up?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. The one.
You always got to be lucky, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's see.
I'd rather be lucky than smart.
The good one I don't have. I don't know what happened to it. I know you sent it to me. I don't have
Okay.
it. So
So what we're currently doing is we're soliciting sponsors for the Bill O'Donnell tribute. I plan on having it released on October 15th, and sponsorships are definitely available. We have currently 6 sponsors, and I need some more sponsors. So please visit www.ustrots.com and become a sponsor for the Bill O'Donnell tribute.
Beautiful. All right.
There you go.
He's a great guy, Bill.
Oh yeah,
Besides
fantastic.
being a great driver, he's just a really nice guy. He's just a good guy.
all you guys in the comments
Trade.
section,
Yeah.
www.ustrots.com.
All right.
And I want to ask you, Trade.
Yeah.
Eric just asked me, did you ever meet Jimmy? Asked the show, did you ever meet Jimi Hendrix?
No, I never did. Nope.
See him play live?
No, I never saw him play live. No.
Not
great.
knowing much about guitar, why was he what was so great about him?
Well, he had a pretty distinctive style. Like it's difficult to have a distinctive style as a guitarist, but he did. Because a guitar is a guitar. I mean, there's a million great guitar players now. I mean, everybody plays great guitar. I don't want to go back to me all the time, but when I was 12 or 13, I was a great guitar player. I mean, I could play any solo that was on any record that Elvis did, any record, any solo. I knew all the solos. But anyway, now, I mean, I really play guitar much anymore. I conquered the guitar as far as I wanted to go with it. I do it on my own sessions, but these guys, they all play great. They're all great. But Jimi Hendrix had a really distinctive style, where he played left-handed too, besides.
Oh.
So he was
Paul
different.
McCartney plays left-handed, I know.
Yeah, Paul is left-handed
Yeah.
too. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Paul is basically a bass player, but he played guitar also. But he's a bass player. But
You know who
Paul's a
the
talented cat.
second best left-handed bass player was?
Who?
Paul McCartney said it. The guy who played with the Four Seasons, Joe.
Joe Longo?
Joe Longo.
Yeah, he was a good player. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the second best bass guitar player left-handed. That Paul McCartney said that.
No kidding. That's funny.
Trey,
And that's
when you
what?
when did you have the horses? Was that the 70s or 80s or what? How did you do that while you were in
Started
the business?
around 69, 70. I got a couple of horses with Georgie Sigley.
Didn't George change his name to George Cliff?
Yes, he did later on. Yeah, well, really later on, though. When he was in Hollywood Park. He was racing in Hollywood Park. I wonder if he's still alive.
Did you ever race in Hollywood Park?
No.
Did you ever race in Hollywood Park?
I never went out there.
So 69 or so, you got a couple of horses. Tell us how it happened, because
I got a couple of horses with George Sigley, and I started jogging a couple of horses, and I got hooked. Then I I got a couple of my own. I put them at the Willowbrook farm. I was with a guy named Buddy Comer. Remember Buddy Comer at all?
Yeah, Luke.
I know Freddie knew. Freddie knew
Yeah.
him. Larry must have known him too.
Yeah, I
Larry,
know.
he was a really good guy, a good horseman too.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time I saw him, it was as one of the Harrisburg sales. I sat down and was talking with him for quite a while. So
Yeah, I think he passed away years ago.
Okay,
That-
so
that-
you got the 2 horses. When did you start to drive?
The next day.
I started to drive around 72, I think. I got my qualifying license, and then I qualified a lot of horses. Finally,
Where was
Vince
that,
called me up.
Monticello?
Yeah, mostly Monticello and some at Freehold. And finally, Vince called me up. He goes, "You got so many qualifying drives. Why don't you let me put in for your A license?" I said, "Okay." So he put in my A license. I think I got my A license around 73 from the USTA,
Right.
and then I started driving.
was that going from a Q to an A, or did you get the P in there?
No, I never had. I don't know if I ever had a provisional.
Okay.
Sounds like you didn't.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Because he was friends with Pagamo. That's why.
Yeah, right. That's right. Listen, you know what Vince did one day? He had me drive a horse at Goshen. It was a pacer. So I really wasn't that pleased with driving a pacer. He puts me up on this pacer. And he said, "I'm going to list you to drive a horse." He said, "I want you to drive a horse up here this week." It was one of those July 4th weekends. And I used to drive up there almost every July 4th weekend. So he put me on this horse, and it was a pacer. And I go away from the gate, and because I'm pretty confident going away from the gate. I used to gate train my horses real good, but it wasn't my horse; it was somebody else's horse. But so I go away, and I'm sitting third or fourth, and I come up on the outside and tuck in second, and then we come to the 3/4 pole, and I come out like I'm going to pass this horse, and my horse just almost like he didn't hit a brick wall, but he just hung. He just didn't want to go.
Yeah.
So I finished second in the clear right behind the winner. And the funny thing is, Vince sends me a picture. And he sends me a picture of me winning the race. And he goes, I don't know what his picture is. I got to find it. I think I have it somewhere. He says, "You see what you can do when you're the presiding judge?" I swear to God.
We got somebody already trained asking. Chris Coyle wants to know if you could sing "My Way," a little bit of it.
Oh, yeah, sure. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. I'll leave the rest for Paul Anka.
Oh, yes. From Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Say hello. Good. Thank you very much.
Well, and by the airport, there's a Paul Anka Drive in Ottawa.
there is.
He
Wow.
wrote that for a lot of people. Don't know that he wrote that for Frank. Then remember he did some good songs.
He's
Paul,
a good writer. He's a
Having
good
My
writer.
Baby and stuff like that with Odia Coates. Was it the woman he sang with? Paul Anka?
I know that name, but I didn't know anything about her.
Oh, yeah. You're having my baby. What a lovely
Oh,
baby.
yeah. Having my
Yeah, that was
baby.
one.
Yeah.
What was the other one? He had some. Paul Anka was not a one-hit wonder. He had several.
He was a hell of a writer. No, Paul and his early records.
I mean, look it up.
His first record, I believe the first hit was Diana, and it was produced.
That's
and
right.
arranged.
That's right.
It was produced and arranged by a guy I know. He was one of the greatest arrangers. He was a guitarist. His name was Don Costa. And I always wondered why that record sounded so great. Oh, please stay by me, Diana. The whole thing, it was mixed so beautiful, arranged so great. It was Don Costa, who later on arranged for Sinatra. He's a great arranger and composer, too.
Can I answer this one question? Can I interrupt 1 minute?
Sure, you can. It's your show, Larry. Come on.
I
Yeah,
enjoy
Larry, you can
this,
do whatever
but
you want.
I enjoy this. I enjoy listening to you guys, but I want to answer this for PM because he's a good guy, and he says, "Larry, I was reading an article that 3 vets wrote they said that blistering and painting a horse's legs is animal cruelty because it does nothing but put a horse in serious pain and will not sound one up. Okay, here's my if the three vets were on, I would this is the answer I would give. It is cruelty, it is painful, but it also brings massive amount of blood to the area, which helps and promotes the healing and the injury. And for years, even up to when I was in the business, if a curb popped or a tendon or whatever it was, the first thing they do was either blister it or pin fire it, and that's what they did. I know they don't do that in the thoroughbreds. They may not even do it in the standardbreds no more.
They still maybe with Heisa they don't. But when I asked last owned a thoroughbred, which was a few years ago, he had a buck shin, which they get, and the Dr. Baker, actually, who's a friend of mine, and Bob Baffer's veterinarian, I called him, and he could say he said you could do one of two things: you could pin fire or give him time off. So I gave him the time off, and it worked. And I gave him to Joe Orsino, a New Jersey guy, and he did a good job with it. Chris Coyle, getting a couple of songs, getting back to you, Trade. Here's what he did right. First one was right, Diana. Puppy Love, that Donny Osmond, I think, made really famous. Put your head on my shoulder. See, I didn't know he did this. My Way. You're Having My Baby.
Well, let me correct you with something.
What's the other one?
Wait. Let me correct
All
you with
I
something.
Have to Do Is Dream.
He didn't write My Way's melody. The melody of My Way is from an Italian song. He heard an Italian song, and he wrote the lyric, but he did not write the melody. Because Paul, I know Paul. He's a good guy, a very nice fella. He likes me. He's a good guy.
Okay, everyone went silent here.
Oh, let me finish my question to PM. Let me just finish my answer. So, is it cruel? Yeah, it's cruel, but it also, like I said before, it brings massive blood supply to the area, which promotes the healing. And as far as the thoroughbreds go, they stopped all of that. But Dr. Nolan came to me one day when I was with the thoroughbreds, and I had the trotters, and they were starting a new thing. What they would do is they would go for a buck shin. They would go in right below the front of the knee, along the cannon bone, and just stick like something down in there and scrape it, and that would cause irritation and bring blood to the area, and the blood would heal. And all it does is so when the vets say it does absolutely nothing, that's not true. It brings a massive amount of blood to the area, because pin firing is, if just picture a soldering iron that's on and the tip of it is red hot. Naturally, you numb the horse all up in the area you're going to pin fire, and then you just burn it. You put that hot iron right in, and naturally he don't feel nothing. And then you paint it with an iodine paint, and you do that for 2 or 3 days. Is it painful? Yes. Does the pain last forever? No, it lasts for 4 or 5 days, and then by that time the healing process starts, and it promotes healing probably in half the time. If you turn one out if you turn the horse out every time something happened, either a curb or a bow tendon or whatever it may be, it would take 3-4 times. Dr. Brennan.
Well, I have a question here for Greg, real quick. Like when Larry, myself, and Trade were training horses, we had horses with suspensories, bow tendons.
Yeah.
I remember having a horse that had a suspensory on one leg, a bow tendon on the other. I was doing hot on one side and cold on the other. But I don't see that as much anymore nowadays.
Well, you don't see as much. I have one with suspensory now. And I never thought that he would. Like, it was the oddest thing about going back to about having luck. I remember Sylvia, the groom of Muscle Hill, called me and said She thought he had a suspension. He had filling behind. So here we go, pump. And what he had is he just had a little bit of, they got a little speck in there, just a little bit of infection. We cleaned it up, and that was it. But to answer you, Freddie, yeah, you don't see it as much. I mean, the horses have better conformation today, and probably they're lighter made. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They look different today, and they go faster. The same as the kids today. Remember, the kids do so much different kinds of training and all that. You never know. I'm trying to get back to trade here, though, Freddie. Forgive me. Chris Coyle says this too. If you knew Paul Vance, wasn't he itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini?
Oh, yeah, I knew Paul.
And he owned horses, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
I was probably closer with Paul than you, Trade. I think
you know him, Freddie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was helping him out with his last few horses that he had. He had that Kathy's Princess with Tommy Houghton. That the horse died in the fire that took place down in Florida. That was the last horse that he owned. And unfortunately, I called Paul up to give him condolences on the horse passing, and he did not know that the horse had passed at that time. And so I had to break the news to him, which I really, really did not want to be the person to do that. But he had owned over 100 horses, and one of the funniest stories that ever happened to him was that there was some guy going around pretending to be him, and the guy died, and the guy's name was Paul Vance. And so his wife reported to all the news agencies that the songwriter of Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini had died. And so now Paul was real funny, but so it went over all the news channels that he died. He had 2 horses racing up at Vernon, and Vernon scratched his horses. They black flagged them because he had died. Meanwhile, Paul's alive and well. He's got every family member calling him up to see if he's well and what they just heard on the news that he died. And, then he goes to, he had a contract, I guess, for on all his records and stuff. They canceled his royalty checks. And he's like, basically I had to prove to them that I'm still effing alive. It was comical as hell. And he says, once they hear you're dead, the checks stop coming.
Yeah.
I knew Paul Vance better than both of you. I knew him very, very well personally and in the horse business. When
how was that, Larry?
Well, he used to fight with his son all the time. Well,
Joe Vance.
Yeah, he used to fight with his son all the time. And then he'd say, do me a favor, take my horses. And then I'd tell Joe, his son, make up with your father. I don't want these horses. But
Larry, Vance was not his birth last name.
What's that?
Vance was not his birth last name. It was
I know
like Vanducci or something like that.
Yeah, he gave me the last time I saw him. I used to go see him in Florida all the time. He moved to Florida. He left his wife, moved to Florida, and he gave me a book that he wrote, and he signed it with his real name. And he told me that there was some commercial going on that he would make an average of $250,000 a year just from them using that song, Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. He also made a movie script that I still have that he wanted me to try to get it made, but he died soon after that before I got a chance to try to do anything with it. But yeah, I knew him well.
Yeah,
so
he did that.
I have a question.
Wait, let me finish here, Greg.
Yeah,
he did the movie score, Itsy Bitsy Teeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. They did it in French for that Russell Crowe movie. It's a Good Year. And Paul told me, he said that they paid him $500,000 for the first year, the second year to hold, because they had an exclusive on it. Trade will probably know more about this than any of us. And then they ran the song for a minute on the show, and so he on the movie, and so he was paid an extra $100,000 because they paid him $50,000 per minute or something to that effect. Does that sound about right, Trade?
Well, listen, let me tell you something about Paul. I know Paul since the early 60s. I was on guitar, played guitar on some of his dates and stuff like that. And I knew Paul, and he was always a big talker. Always a big bullshitter. I mean, you want to hear bullshit? You just listen to Paul. But he did write a couple of great songs. And the song that you may not remember he wrote Catch a Falling Star
Falling
and
Star,
put
Perry
it in your
Como.
pocket.
Yeah.
Never let
That
it
was his
fade
first song.
away. He was very close to Perry because Perry lived on Long Island too. He knew Perry really well.
Perry Como?
Yeah, Perry Como, who's a great singer. One of the
Trade, can I
greatest
ask you a
singers ever.
question?
Good.
Trade?
Yep.
Where'd you get the name Trade?
Well, my name came from my first manager who started managing me when I was 16. My first manager wrote Wear My Ring Around Your Neck, the Elvis Presley record. Before I met him, he wrote that. I met him when I was around 16. It was probably maybe a year before I met him that he wrote and had that big hit. It was a big hit for Elvis. And when I got with him, I was 16 or 17. He got me my first record deal with Roulette. And he said, you know what? He goes, we got to change your name. I'm not going to divulge it right now, my original name, but it's changed legally. And he said, you know, I was thinking of two names for you. He said, he was Jewish, by the way. Good, sharp guy. I hope he's still alive. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. Eddie Miller was his name. You'll see his name on the song Wear My Ring Around Your Neck. He wrote with Bert Carroll, his partner, writing partner. Anyway, so he says, I was thinking about two different names for you, you know. He said, because I want you to have a star's name. So you can be a star. He said, you're going to be a star. He said, I'm going to help you be a star, you know. He got me my first record deal on Roulette and gave me a choice between two names. He said, listen, you think about it over the weekend and you let me know which one you want to go with. And he gave me Harvey Ginsburg and Trade Martin. I swear to God. I mean, it's a really true story.
Really?
It's going to go in my book. It's a true story. I mean, that's what he said. You know, and of course he didn't want me to take Harvey Ginsburg. I mean, you know, but he said he thought of, there used to be in New York, there used to be a bank called the Trade Bank. And I think he was either with the Trade Bank or he used to see the Trade sign all the time. And he liked the name Trade. He says, I'm going to name you Trade Martin. Now your name is going to be Trade Martin.
I like that.
And that's what he said.
But what, you know, we couldn't hear you because you broke up. What was your name before that?
Well, I'm not going to divulge.
Still can't hear you.
But you can look it up. You can look it up and find.
Yeah,
I'd rather you look it up and find out.
I thought you told us that. What?
No, I didn't divulge it. But you can look it up and find it on. I'd rather you.
No, I don't care. I just want to know about you.
No, I know, but I mean, I don't mind if you know, but I'd rather not.
Hey, Trade, we got you on the show right now. So why don't you tell the audience? A lot of people probably don't know who Trade Martin is. Tell them some of the songs that you wrote and some of the artists that have sung your songs.
Well, I arranged and produced a lot of stuff, and including Dusty Springfield, Joan Baez, I produced. Leslie Gore, I arranged and produced for. I discovered the BT Express. I discovered and first produced the Earls, Larry Chance and the Earls. I first put them on my record label, which was Rome Records. And more in between. I first produced, well, no, she was a big hit before, but I did produce Timmy Euro. Patti LaBelle did one of my songs. The Vanilla Fudge did one of my songs. I mean, there's a lot of them. A lot of them through the years that I would overlook right now. I don't even think of it. Ian and Sylvia was a
really.
Oh yeah.
Because they were a part of the folk, and they were so famous in Canada.
Yeah.
And then
they were big in Canada. They were
on YouTube. They did a concert together, and they were very good together.
Yeah, I produced a couple of records with them, Ian and Sylvia. Yeah,
really.
They were on Vanguard Records. Yeah, they were on Vanguard. And I first got a first deal for a group called the Vagrants that had a guy named Leslie West as their guitar player. And Leslie always said that I was Trade Martin is his favorite guitar player. That's Leslie West. And I was always his favorite guitar player. But then
You're probably a lot of people's favorite.
I have to
players.
butt in. I got to butt
Yeah,
in
but
again.
luck-
No, I'm glad you're back.
I have to butt in again. Two things. First thing is
Hello.
Joe Garino says Paul Vance's best horse was Secret Service. That's
Yeah.
true. And
Yeah.
the second thing is that broke horseman, I guess, sent in $10. I appreciate it, but please don't send it in. I don't ask for no money. I don't want any money. I don't need any money. I thank you very much for the thought, but I'm not set up to take money, and I don't want any money. I do this just to have fun, with my friends, and so thank you. If you want to help, just hit the like button. That's what my friend says. It does something with the algorithm, whatever you call that thing.
Algorithm, yeah.
Keep the $10, and thank you very much. But that's not what this show is about. We don't need the money.
Trade. Another
Yeah.
question for you.
Okay, good.
Chris wants to know: would you ever have met Jerry Vale?
No, actually, I never met Jerry Vale, but I have a couple of stories about Jerry because a friend of mine used to manage Jimmy Roselli, and Jimmy Roselli and Jerry Vale kind of had a little bit of they had a friendship, but they had a little bit of a conflict with their friendship. That's what I heard. And I mean, I don't know. Jimmy Roselli was probably one of the greatest singers ever in the world, and especially as far as Napolitan songs.
Now I'm going to say this, and
I know what's coming here. I know what's
I'm
coming.
going to say this, and I mentioned it to Trade once about 10 years ago. Trade Martin and the friend that he's talking about put together one of the greatest things, and I went to the first rehearsal, and it was the feud between Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Roselli.
Yeah.
And Trade took the part of Sinatra, and his friend took the part of Jimmy Roselli, and why they had that feud. And it was unbelievable. It was so interesting. And they had it wasn't an audition, it was a rehearsal, but the place where they were, it was packed. But naturally I sat right up front because I knew Trade Martin.
Right.
And it was great. And I think I asked you about a few months back, I says, whatever happened to that? And you told me that the guy was too busy or something. That would have been great.
It could have been a real good Broadway show. It was a great concept. It wasn't my concept. It was Dennis Delafave, the friend of mine. He's, I mean, listen, I liked Paul. Don't get me wrong. I liked Paul Vance. I liked him a lot, but he was a big talker. Always a big.
Yeah, he exaggerated.
Yeah, he was a big exaggerator. And so was this guy, Dennis Delafave, who I went to school with. He was a real bullshitter, and he was good at it. And he used to manage Jimmy Roselli for a long time. And it was his concept to do the feud between Jimmy Roselli and Sinatra. But I set the whole thing up. You know, it's almost like if I sent Greg Peck or Larry Rolla a horse or Freddie Hudson a horse, and they hooked them up, set them up, had a check set right, got the right equipment on them and everything, and raced them. Well, I did that with this show, and then I really got no thanks for it, and I said, "Listen, do it on your own now. Now you want to, because I set the whole thing up, I got the whole thing done, but it was his concept. It wasn't my concept. But thanks, Larry.
And in the business that you're you're still in, Trade. The thanks really mean something to you.
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah, when it's a creative thing done. Yeah,
it's an appreciation. Yeah, that you deserve, man. You want somebody to acknowledge the fact that you did help. You got Muscle Hill to the races and got him to be a champion. And you know it. And
well, I've always said this. I don't want. You don't have to say that I was good. Just don't say I was bad. That's all. There's an element of that.
Right.
Yeah, right. That happens. But again, ultimately, it's like whether you're Frank Sinatra or George Jones, you have to have the song to begin with. They can't sing a
Absolutely.
bad song. And what happens, like what George Jones said in his later years, he said that he couldn't do it anymore because he said he didn't know what the young people are thinking now. So he couldn't. Yeah, he figured he couldn't write to identify with it. Or look at, I've seen Bob Dylan said on 60 Minutes he had a wellspring of creativity for several years. They said, could you do it now? He didn't even hesitate. No, he said, no, not anymore.
Really, really.
Right? Where are you still creatively pretty good? Do you think you're as good as you ever were, or what?
Yeah, I'm never get writer's block. I'm always writing.
Really?
Constantly, yeah.
But Trade, how many songs do you produce in a week? You're still producing a lot.
Yeah, I put out over the weekend. I put out 2 or 3 videos, new videos of one
You have
cover
a
song.
huge European market, from if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I got to ask you a question.
I've been very lucky.
Maybe you would know this, Trade.
Right.
Our friend Alfred Natoli.
Yeah, Al, yeah, sure.
He wrote a song, "Here's to the Band," for Sinatra.
Right.
It was the last single Sinatra ever made, and it was going to be the last album Sinatra ever did. It was going to be called "Here's to the Band," but what happened was Quincy Jones wrote that song "L.A. is My Lady," so he did that album instead, and then that was the last one he ever did. But here's my question:
Good.
Alfred spent a lot of money, probably maybe close to $10,000, and he understands that if you want to do a country western song, you better hire all guys from Nashville, or you got to be down there. If you're not from down there, nothing's ever going to get done.
Right.
So he sent the song "Here's to the Band," which the Sammy Davis sang it, Liza Minnelli, Sinatra, all the great singers sang it. And he wanted to do a country version of
it. Yeah.
He sent it down to Nashville. All Nashville musicians, they redid everything. A country western guy sang it, and he's trying to get it to a country star. And I can't think of the one that I recommended, and I hope he does it. An older guy, but he's really good. And also a song that he wrote that I play a lot on here that he wrote called "It's Getting Late." And the same thing with that. The new arrangement down there.
That song's a wonderful, Larry. That song, I love that song. I'll tell you who that guy sounds like is a country singer called Clay Walker. That's who he sounds like. That.
Yeah, I heard Clay Walker.
lot
Yeah.
like Clay Walker.
Well, you know what? Let me play that song. Let me play the other song. You've all heard "Here's to the Band." You know that song. Now I'm going to play the other one that he had done, and then we'll talk right after this.
Dump those grudges, ditch those judges. They're just weighing you down. Drop the haters, procrastinators, 'cause one man's smile is just another one's frown. When it's time for the end, ain't no warning, my friend. One day you're here, next stop the pearly gates. So listen close to what I'm saying. Lighten up, it's getting late. Dump collections, self-reflections, they're just covered in dust. Why obsess, worry or stress? Just ask yourself, what's the fuss? When your doctor calls you on a Sunday afternoon, gonna be a blue Monday, you'll be howling at the moon. You know you never can cheat fate. Lighten up, it's getting late. Forget bling and glitter, text and Twitter. Don't need it to make my case. Say it old school, face to face. I dump the users, soul abusers, turn and walk away. yourself a kick in the ass, then raise your glass. Let's toast to the past and make the most of today. Keep the faith, rise above, do the things that you love. Find a reason every day to celebrate. So listen close to what I'm saying. Lighten up, it's getting late.
Okay, Larry, I'm
Who is
reading
that
the
again?
I'm reading the comments over here, and the one guy says the show sounds more like the Emmys tonight.
Yeah.
Larry,
Let me finish this story now. So
Yeah,
he's
that's
saying
good stuff.
he sent that song down with his to the band, and he's trying to get it to George Strait because
Yeah.
George Strait is the one. He's been all over the world, and he's the only
He's
one
got
that
70 number ones. I was just talking
Yeah.
about him. Yeah.
and
60.
and it's impossible. It's going on now for 3 years. Not one return phone call. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I don't know what you
Well,
have to
see, his manager died, Irv Woolsey, who was his manager for years. Now,
George
'cause
Strait.
I got to meet them at the AAEP, American Association of Equine Practitioners. I did media training for them, and George Strait came to the Derby one year. Bob Lewis, who I had in the training, was his veterinarian down in Texas, and he talked about how George Strait started out but what George Strait does is I mentioned it to Trade earlier. Dean Dillon, when George is ready to cut a song, cut an album, he'll call Dean Dillon, tell him I need you here Monday. And so Trade, knowing better than I, because he's done that, I'd say it's not easy. You have to have a little bit of luck. It's like the singers. Well, Randy Travis worked, where was it, the Bluebird or somewhere, he served breakfast, and then he sang, and you'd have to have some luck too, Trade. That's a lot of it. Same as the horse. You got to have luck in the music business.
Absolutely. The thing is, Larry, with that is they don't want those guys down there. Every time somebody from up north does a record, does a song, even if they use guys down there, they don't. That leaves one of the guys down there song out because the guy up north is getting a record that the guy down in Nashville should get. Now that song sounds like a Garth Brooks song to me, a little bit. And
Clay Walker, Trade. If you listen to, by the way, Bob Blue was that area. I think the greatest out of that area was George Strait. But back, say, in the 90s, which there were a lot of, Clay Walker came along. If you ever listen to him, boy, you think now somebody mentioned Clint Black. Now I wouldn't say that. I'm going to say to PM, listen to YouTube some of Clay Walker's stuff, and I'll think that's what that guy sounds like. But everything I see, it's like, and I'll answer the question, how much for Muscle Hill? 55,000. And if somebody had to bid 57, I don't think that. I made them bid back and I signed for them. That's how it worked. Okay. They weren't going to go any more money. So it's the same as you always hear somebody tried to make it in Nashville for years. And one night, some record company executive shows up, likes how they sing, and away you go.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So Larry be the same thing. Eddie Rabbit. Now there's a funny one. Talk about singers, and I knew he was born in Brooklyn, New York. And he had several hits, including Love a Rainy Night. He was really big back in the 80s, huh? Eddie Rabbit.
I know Eddie. I knew Eddie very well.
I figured you were going to say that because in one of his songs, he says, when I was singing country music here in Newark, there was a line with that. So tell us about Eddie Rabbit.
Well, he was living in Bloomfield, I think,
Yeah.
which is where Joe Pesci was from, too.
Right.
Bloomfield. But I used to do some demos with Eddie Rabbit when he was in New York. He was a tall guy, a very nice fella.
With a beard.
A good beard, good fella, good nice guy. And he was a very close friend of another co-writer of mine. His name was John Troy, who lived in Clifton. And Eddie used to
He's only
stay over
56 when he died, Trade too, huh? Eddie Rabbit.
I know, he died very young, yeah. Well, he was.
56,
He used to abuse himself with a lot of smoking, and also I think he used to, which I don't know how it affects.
You know what you
him.
mean. You know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he used to abuse himself a little bit. But he was a real nice guy, and he was a good rider, excellent rider. I worked with him in New York a lot, you know. And Eddie was a good guy. Yeah. But getting back to that song, Larry. Getting back to that song, Larry. It's nicely recorded. It's a nice little song, but it's not for those guys down there. It's a little bit too lyrically sharp for those guys. It's and about getting late. It's about somebody dying, getting late, and stuff like that. The concept of the whole thing is a little morbid. So I don't think they
You're probably right.
You know,
You're probably right, because they got no response, and they even paid a guy. They paid a guy a lot of money. They paid a guy thousands of dollars to go try to get somebody, and that was 2 years ago, and still
a song plugger. Yeah. Well, the only reason why I can say what I think, and what I think is usually very valid, is because I've had a record company and a couple of record companies since the early 60s. And I was an A&R man who would pick and choose records and pick and choose songs. And I turned down $150,000 a year in 66 to be the head of A&R at ABC Paramount, because I was making 100 already, and I didn't want to be tied to an office job. But that was in the mid-60s. I was recording for RCA at the time. I'm not trying to blow smoke about my credentials, but I know a little bit about songs, recordings, and Nashville. Chet Atkins wanted me to come to Nashville many times. He wanted me to relocate. He said, if you relocate, you got to come down here. He said, and you'll be a monster down here. They'll love you. You'll produce records and you'll write songs, and but he wanted me to live down there. He said, you got to relocate down here.
Well, I'm asking.
Can't do it from New York. Can't do it from New York.
Right. But that's why I'm asking you, kind of like when we were talking about the drivers. I want to get somebody, who was or is a real top driver, because they're the one that asks, not us. That's my opinion anyway.
Right.
I know that much. I'm a mile wide and an inch deep, but you know all the ins and outs of it. Yeah, that's why I want to ask you.
Hey, Trey, didn't you bring Jackie Moe on? Isn't he watching tonight?
Yeah, Jackie, I speak to his wife a lot on my Facebook page. They're very conservative, and they're up in Canada. And I think Jackie was sick for a while, but he's all right now.
Yeah, he was sick.
Yeah, and he was always a good friend of mine. And when we used to race at the matinees, I used to say, Jackie, you can't stay that close to these guys. They don't have their horse hung up right. These paces, man. They could fall down any minute. They can make a bad step, and you're going to go over, or you're going to run. His dad was a good friend of mine. Sid Mose was a good friend of mine too. And I used to tell him, Jackie's got to be very careful, man. He's gonna hurt himself. I used to stay way back from these guys, sit way back, and come at the 3/4 pole and just make a big sweep and win the race. But Jackie used to be on top of their helmets all the time, and these guys didn't have their horses hung up right. It's not like you're sitting on the back of somebody who's...
Trey, did you ever race the ones that had football helmets on to race?
What do you mean football helmets on the race?
Yeah, I raced against guys that had football helmets on.
I know. They used to have
helmets on. They had football helmets.
Yeah, no.
Where was this, Freddie?
That was in New York Fair races.
Yeah, they
where?
New York Fair races years ago.
But then you had to have a real serious helmet. They didn't take that little helmet shit.
Well, what happened? O'Donnell
That's
and them.
The first thing that would fall off.
Yeah.
No, but after Jackie Parker Jr. got injured so bad, remember Campbell and O'Donnell, and they got together and they came up with this Snell-approved helmet. Huh?
Right.
Because the old helmet.
Didn't
wasn't
they start that after Houghton was killed with the helmets and
No,
stuff?
no, because as a matter of fact, Billy's father, Henny O'Donnell, said it's too bad that Billy didn't have one of those helmets.
Okay.
They had just started. Yeah. Yeah. They say maybe it would have saved about. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
a shame. Yeah.
Trade,
Yeah,
it's
that was
interesting. Eddie
a sad,
Rabbit,
that was a
25
sad
number
night, sad
ones.
night.
Trade.
But hey, trade. Now I'm going to
Right.
bring this up. We're going to get back to the music for a second. Larry actually played the Roosevelt Raceway song on his show, and he ended up with the notices of copyright violations.
From us. Yeah, I keep getting a copyright violation from myself all the time. You have. I mean, I wrote the song. I published the song. Me and Freddie wrote the song, and they come back at me and they go, "Well, this is a copyrighted piece of material." I said, "Yeah, copyright me, but you can't get in touch with anybody on YouTube. You may as well be talking to the wind. You may as well go out and talk to the rainbow. You can't get."
We do have a new version coming out when we just changed it to the Meadowlands, so that should be coming out when you find the tracks to it.
Yeah, I got to re-sing that thing. Yeah. Freddie rewrote the lyric about the Meadowlands. Yeah. I got to find. You know what I got to find? What? Go ahead. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
What's the nice? I'm not going to say the best. What's the nicest horse you ever drove?
Probably
Synthesizer.
No, she wasn't the best, but she was my pet. She was like a pet. But the best horse I think I ever drove was I drove a horse for Rayo Filion once. And Rayo Filion goes to me, "I'm tired of seeing you drive all that shit." He goes, "Let me put you down on a horse." I said, "Yeah, you want to put me down?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "You can handle it." He said, "I can see you can handle a horse." He said, "Let me put you down on a horse." So he puts me down on a horse to drive. And it was a New Zealand horse. And he says, "Listen, but make sure you keep this horse off the gate. Don't put him on the gate." I said, "Oh, I know how to do that, Rayo." I said, "Okay." He goes, "All right, good." He says, "Listen, I'm going to warm the horse." I said, "Listen, Rayo, let me warm the horse up." He said, I got my own bike. Let me use my own bike and let me warm the horse up." So I warm him up, and he runs away. He runs away from me, this horse. This horse, I think I went around, instead of going 220 with him, I went around 212 with him that day, He ran away with me. He was a New Zealand horse.
But what happened in the race?
I'll tell you. So I get in the race, and Hervé is in the race. And listen, they wanted me to win this race. I mean, it wasn't easy. It wasn't hard to tell that, but they wanted me to win this race. They must all bet me. The only guy that I think was going to try to beat me was Delasanti had a horse, had a gray horse, and I think he was the favorite. So we come up to the gate, and I'm holding the horse off the gate. And Hervé goes to me, he goes, "Trey, put him on the gate." He's yelling to me. "Put him on the gate. Go on, drop the line. Don't worry about it." I said, "Hervé," he said, "your brother told me not to put him on the gate." He goes, "Oh, I put him on the gate." He's yelling to me, with that gravelly voice of his. He was so cool. I loved it. He was a nice guy. But anyway, so I'm going up to the gate, but the Delasanti's horse makes a break, and they do a recall of the horses. Now my horse is very hot now. I mean, she's really, I'm not sure if it's a mare or a gelding. But anyway, the name of the horse was Adoris Star M. And anyway, we go back behind the gate, and Hervé's yelling. I'm keeping the horse off the gate, and Hervé's yelling at me. He goes, "Put him back on the gate. Don't worry about it, Trade. Put him on the screen. Put him in and just drop the lines." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Fuck it." I said, "I put him on the gate and I dropped the lines, So we go away from the gate, and, and I went away from the gate real good. And I think I sat second or third, and I come out at the half, tucked in second. And at the 3/4 pole, I come out, and I just passed him like he was standing still. That was Patty Delasanti's horse was in front, and I passed him like he was standing still because this horse had to have 3 or 4 seconds on the field. You know, Rayo had been sitting on him for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So he put me on like I was on a ringer. I mean, I could have won if I would have went backwards. I could have won with this horse, you know. But anyway, so I win the race, and they were so happy. I mean, I think I paid $15. I didn't even bet the horse myself, and he was in the daily double and everything. I mean, they must have cleaned up that day at Freehold.
Let me talk about what you said to Mose about staying away. There was a kid, and this is true, and I'll just give you one example. In fact, I should even mention his name because I don't think he's driving no more. Jerry Silverman's kid. He had a bad wreck. Richie Silverman. There was a bad wreck, and he got hurt pretty bad. And when that happens, all the trainers that use catch drivers, and at that time Richie was trying to be an up-and-coming catch driver, and he was doing well. And he was small, he was light, and he's been around a long time with his father Jerry. And after the accident, all the trainers that were going to use him or that used him watched. And sure enough, instead of riding close, instead of riding tight, instead of being right on the guy's helmet, he stayed off 6 inches a foot.
Right.
Drove like careful. And the crazy thing about that is if a horse goes down in front of you and you're on the guy's helmet or you're a foot back, you're going over him anyway. So, but the trainers watch. And Richie was backing off these horses and driving too careful, and you can't do that.
No, of course not. No,
you wind up losing all the drives, and I recognize that, and I put him down on a couple of horses, and I said, Richie, I says, and I told him just that. I says, Richie, if you're right on the guy's helmet or you're 6 inches off his helmet,
that doesn't mean nothing, right?
If he goes down, you could be 2 feet behind him. If he goes down, you're going down. You got to get that accident out of your head and if you don't do that, you got to stop. Anyway, I put him on a bunch of horses. He won with every one, but he could never get the momentum back, and he wind up. I don't think he drives anymore. But you can't tell somebody what you told Mose, and I'm sure Mose was nice and polite to you, but behind his back, what is he, fucking nuts? You know.
Well, no, listen, Jackie was only 16 or so at the time, at 16. He was just starting out. So I didn't want him to get hurt, you know, but I said, you got to sit back. I didn't say 6 inches. I meant really sit back.
Jackie was one of the few guys that when a line broke, he leaped from the stirrups right onto the horse's back.
Yeah, he was very athletic. He was good.
He was fearless. And I knew his father also, Sid. I raced with Sid more than I raced against Jackie. But Jackie was one of the tops in the country and completely fearless.
Nice fella too.
Good guy. Yeah.
Now, can I keep going here?
Go ahead.
Freddie, how about you? Nicest one you ever drove? You have ever driven, I should probably.
Gosh, I'd go more into training. I had some really good horses that I trained. Blue Fireball, Mariposa, Shy. I drove a lot of cheap horses, so B classes and stuff like that.
But you must have driven one that you said was better than that.
Excuse me?
Right?
I didn't hear you.
Driven something that you liked better than the others.
Not that I can really think of. I really can't think of it. So, I go more into the training end of it, where I love developing horses. Like we had Romeo Allegro, which was a great horse. We had Best Record, Arbor Rodney. I had a trotter, I can't even remember the name of him, which was a really, really super trotter until he hit 210, and then he was a piece of garbage. But he went totally backwards. He looked like a Hamiltonian winner up until 210. but
Larry, would you be wild? Oh, sorry. Would you be wild?
I'm gonna tell you guys a story. When the modified sulkies came out, and we were switching over to the modified sulkies, we didn't have a modified sulky. And so this is when I was training for INSCO. And so Dell decides that we had 17 2-year-olds in to go. We were racing at Yonkers. The baby races were at Roosevelt. So we have 17 in at Roosevelt. We borrowed a modified sulky from Lucien Fontaine. So now we had 5 trotters in the first race. We finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in an 8-horse race in that run. And we only have 1 modified sulky on those trotters. And now I would take that sulky along with the breast collar. You have to remember now, we were switching from long tracers to short tracers. Short tracers came with the modified sulky. Larry, you remember the long tracers? Trade, you remember the long tracers.
Sure.
So anyhow, we have 1 breast collar and 1 sulky, and we raced, I guess, 12 more horses in that 1 breast collar and sulky. And I would basically, as that 1 race was over, I would grab that sulky. Dell would be on one side, I'd be on the other. Remember, we had the tie down stand. It was not the fast hitch this time, and you basically had to untie them. You had to run it over. The horses were waiting on the ramp, throw that sulky on, and send them out. And then we had horses to warm up in between. I was grabbing people off the streets to help me warm up horses. It was just like, it was the hardest day I ever had in my life. And then I had to shoot up to Yonkers because we had 3 or 4 racing that night, which was also a killer. But it was just comical. And the bike that we used Lucien Fontaine's bike. And it's the first modified sulky that we were using. And then basically we started buying sulkies all over the place. We ended up with about 20 Nassau sulkies probably within the next 2 weeks. And then we got Gerald's coming in. We had about 10 Gerald sulkies coming in. If you remember back then, every horse had their own sulky. It wasn't like it is nowadays where the driver brings the sulky. The owners bought the sulkies for the horses. So
Right.
I just happened to notice here, Mark Schwartz, who's in Nashville, said best horse he ever drove was Andy Lobel. I remember the horse. Mark, do you go to the races over at Oak Grove now, which is across the bridge from Nashville? Just let us know, because I want to know. People should know about that if they ever want to go for a nice trip. You go to Nashville Country Music, and they even have a nice track across the river now that's doing very well. Oak Grove, huh? Larry, what about you? Your best would be Wildwood Jeb, right?
No. The best horse, no. I early on, there were 2 horses, my favorite. One, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I claimed him from Frank Popfinger, and he was a perfect horse. You take him off the gate with 2 fingers, or you put him on the gate and just follow the gate out, and he'd leave just as fast as any other horse, and put him in a hole, go to the top, anything. Just a perfect horse. I can't think of his name. The other horse, what we did one year, me, Mike Foley, and Mike San Maria, each of us picked a horse, and we sent one of the grooms up to Buffalo, and Buffalo, Batavia, I forget which one it was. And we sent him up there and says, just back these horses up. We had a plan. And Mike Santa Maria, I wish he was alive because he could verify this story, because Mike Foley's dead and so is Mike. So anyway, we sent the 3 horses up there with 1 groom, and all the instruction was just back them down, back them down, back them down, back them down. One was 12, the other 2 were 13 years old. So it was going to be their last year of racing. So the horse I sent out was a horse called Jolly Gent. Perfect horse, great horse, really good horse. So we backed all 3 of them down, and when all the good races were off the program, we sent them back. Now, I got Jolly Gent in Roosevelt Raceway. I'm almost positive it was Roosevelt Raceway. It was in November. And me and Pat Quaglietta stayed at the stall, and was now this 10 claimer was down to $2,000, $2,500, whatever the lowest was. And he was really good. We were going to make a big bet on him. So me and Pat sat with him all afternoon. and we had lunch there, and we had a radio on the trunk, and all of a sudden, about 2:00 in the afternoon, there was a announcement made that President Kennedy got shot, and an hour later they canceled the races, and that the meet ended. And a week later, I never got the horse, and the horse was shot after that, and we wasted a whole year and never got to race the horse because the following year when they opened, he was 14. So and that was the end of November. Then there was no place to race him after that. So that was in 1963, I think it was. So, but that's what happened. Now I don't know if Yonkers was open. It couldn't have been open. I don't know. I don't remember. All I know is that they canceled the races, and that was the end of that horse's career. There was no more races for him because probably I don't know. There was no other races, but he was. Them two horses were my best horses.
Somebody just asked him, is Larry Summers still around? But he died of cancer, didn't he? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Freddie, do you know?
I don't know. I haven't probably seen Larry Summers in 20 years, so I don't know.
That's why. I'm pretty sure he did, yeah. Yeah, because he when I came, he was hardly around, like say in 1990. So, it was probably starting then. And I thought that's what somebody said, Yeah.
I think at the same time, Luca Derrico was around then, and I see that he's around. I see him on social media sites.
Oh, yeah, no, he's around. Yeah.
So Trade,
if
I get them guys up in Monticello to wear these, what do you call them? What do you call them? Cameras?
GoPro cameras. Yeah. GoPro.
I got to write that
GoPro.
down.
Yeah.
GoPro.
But Larry,
What?
you don't even need that. There's, like Manny said, if you Google Mark McDowell and there, you'll see that mic'd up. They'll have literally tens or hundreds of them.
All
you
right.
can show people.
All right, that's what I'm going to do then.
Just go to YouTube, you'll see it. Yeah, it's definitely they have it on Ontario, but Mark McDowell is Mark mic'd up or something like that. Now there's a guy who's had a lot of accidents.
Naturally, I have to get his permission to do it, right? I got to call him up or something.
Oh,
Who knows him?
I don't think. What? No. He drives for Ray Schnitker, so it wouldn't be him. I don't think that anything. There's all kinds of it on there. I can't imagine them.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out, and if I find them and I can upload them, I don't know how to do that. My friend does it. The guy that usually does it for me went to Italy today, Anthony. He went to Italy today. He usually uploads all these things for me.
Because the tracks, I think, would be glad if you picked them up, because that's what the social media is all about. They want that stuff shared.
Promo, yeah, sure. Funny thing is, you mentioned Italy. I'm recording Al Di La. Now a girl I went to school with loves the song Al Di La, and I used to sing it for her at when I was at the club a couple of years ago. And I'm going to re-record Al Di La. You just mentioned Italian, and I said, "Oh, Al Di La is a song. What a good record! Wait till you hear the record. It's going to be a good record."
What'd you say that guy's name was? I got to write it down. Mike McDonald.
No. You know what? Don't even. I'll talk to you later. You don't need him. There's all kinds of it on there. All kinds of drivers. It's not hard. Okay.
You can use any of that stuff.
He's just one.
Hey, Larry, do you still have the link to the Roosevelt Raceway song? Play it if you do.
Okay.
And this is Trade at his best.
I got a pacer in mind with the fastest time. He's in the third race, the driver's an ace. So make a bet tonight when the moon is bright. He's 9-1 and he can get the job done. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. Come and wager again, the daily double, my friend. First and second race, a trotting the pace. You can win a lot, get your cash on the spot. The feeling is right, it's an exciting night. And Roosevelt Raceway,
Where it all began.
Roosevelt Raceway,
Where it all began.
have a drink and a meal. It's so much fun watching them go on that big mile run. 2 times around, towards the finish they're bound. The best in the world with that hoofbeat sound. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began.
Welcome to Roosevelt Raceway, the world capital of harness racing, where it all began, where it is today.
Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. And Roosevelt Raceway, where it all began. I got a pacer in mind with the fastest time. He's in the 3rd race, the driver's an ace. So make a bet tonight when the moon is bright. He's 9-1 and he can get the job done.
Where it all began.
Roosevelt Raceway.
Larry,
Yeah.
you might have, who's this? Is Dr. Don't Pass one. Sounds like another funny one. Freaking G Peck, guy in love with GP, whatever. Get after him. That's your job. We don't want any negative stuff on here.
Oh, you know what? For guys like this, here's
Yeah.
what I did. Let me show
Yeah.
you what I did.
But
For guys like that,
yeah,
he's gonna get this award. Where the hell is it now?
okay.
Wait,
Well.
I'm gonna show you.
Always one.
Yeah, I'm gonna show it right now. Here it is. This is special for that guy. Achievement Award. This certifies that you are the asshole of the night.
Yeah.
Okay, how's
That's
that?
all right.
How about
Hey,
we
listen,
sing it?
everybody
How about
has
we
their
sing it?
opinion. Doctor Don't Pass one, so it is what it is.
That's what we're gonna
Great.
do instead. Because the other night, some guy said some nasty stuff, and me like a jerk went right after him, and then after it was over, I acted like a 12-year-old kid, going right back at him. And I says, I can't be doing this. I'm 85 years old. I'm talking
Right.
like I'm a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah.
So now I just made this sign. So whenever somebody like that and says, hey, okay, you won the achievement award, certifies that you're the asshole of the night. That's it. That's the guy. And I don't even acknowledge him anymore.
Trey,
We sing it. Asshole of the night, exchanging glances, wandering in the night.
Trey, what?
Yeah.
How'd you come up with the concept for that song for the Roosevelt Raceway? What made you think of that?
Well, me and Freddie were talking, and the whole thing was where it all began. That's what this concept was, and I just thought of the Daily Double, and the things you could do at the racetrack. That would be kind of fun. And
PM quickly, by the way, Larry just popped up. I still live in the U.S. Both boys, PM, are like a lot of the generations of today. Problem with the business is the young generation is not interested in harness racing, and they'll never be. You could pay them to go to the races, and they're not going. But that's unfortunately. But I think that's the way. But thanks for asking. Trade, keep going.
well,
I just want
that was it basically. I mean, it was just where it all began, and the
But
idea.
the rhythm to it and all that.
Well, we were also looking to do it for the documentary that we were doing. We were putting a documentary of Roosevelt Raceway together at that particular time, and we did get that out. I think we got 2 versions of it out. One's a short version and one's a long version.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have. Yeah,
Oh, you've
Because
seen
if
it?
you- I'm pretty with Freddie. I'm sure he'd have given it to me, or I'd have seen it.
Yeah.
I'm like anybody, the short-term memory as you get older. It's not the. No, it's true. It's true. So, what else, Trade? So you still love the music, is what it is. You get up every day and you
Oh
love it.
yeah, well definitely. Listen, that's how I make I make a living. I mean, I made my living for since the early '60s with music. That's it. You know, I've been lucky. I've been lucky to make enough money to afford horses. I mean, it's very expensive to carry your own horses. I mean, I didn't have anybody buying horses for me. You know, I had my own. I had all my own. I didn't want to listen to anybody's bull crap. You know, like, well, what happened today? What's the matter? How come you couldn't? Blah, 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 you know, that kind of stuff. What happened? What happened? The horse didn't want to go. I mean, you know, I don't have to answer to anybody. I didn't want to have to answer to anybody, you know. So,
you know, aside from trade success, his personal success, he has. Well, I only know of two. I think all he has is two kids, a boy and a girl.
Yeah,
both
right.
Extremely successful. Both. In fact, the first movie Trade made was him and his daughter made that movie, and it was a good one. And we're talking about 30 or 40 years ago, maybe longer than that.
Well, about 30 years ago, yeah.
And his son, I think, I don't want to say what he was, but is very, very successful, retired now, and may dabble back in the horse business with Trade, maybe.
Yeah, it's a good little driver, my son. My son knows how to. He knows who to follow and where to go. He
drove too. He drove. He had another career, a very high-end career.
Yeah, he was with the DEA. He was with the DEA for like 10 years, and he did well. They liked him there, and then new management came in, and didn't get along with the new management, and he got out. But he was on some very touchy situations with drug dealers, you know.
Trey, I know what else I was going to ask you too. The whole Trump thing is. I love your posts, whether you agree or you disagree. But I'll tell you what, you pump those things out for Trump every day, and I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. You keep doing it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about anybody
not
liking it. There's a lot of people in the music business that hate that stuff that I do, you know. But it doesn't matter, bother to me. I do what I want, and I couldn't care less what anybody thinks, you know.
I stay neutral.
Right.
I have good friends on both sides of the situation, and I stay.
Well, unfortunately, it's something. If you bring it up now, people, it's not. I say to them, "Can you not like the person and disagree with their politics?" But not today, huh? Not today.
Well, the thing is,
we live in a different time. Sure.
Yeah, the thing is, listen, the Democrat Party is not a stable party as far as I'm concerned. They're mentally messed up. It's sad though, but they are, and Trump gets them more mentally messed up because they can't stand that he put out the hat Trump in 2028, and they went crazy. So I put up on my page Trump 2032, you know, just to make fun of them even more. You know?
Hey, when I see over here talking about politics, we have PM. He's asking me a question. Didn't President Kennedy speak at Roosevelt Raceway? The answer to that is yes. Kennedy campaigned at Roosevelt Raceway when he was running for president. Johnson was at Roosevelt Raceway twice, and Ronald Reagan was also at Roosevelt Raceway. So those are the three presidents that I know that were at Roosevelt Raceway, and I have two pictures of Kennedy, not Kennedy. Well, I actually have three pictures. I have a picture of Kennedy at Roosevelt. I have a picture of Reagan with Buddy Regan at Roosevelt Raceway on the track. And I have the other picture of Johnson cutting the cake for the U.S. Harness Riders Association at Roosevelt Raceway. And I have a picture of him speaking at Roosevelt Raceway in George Morton Levy's office.
Wow.
Well, they love big crowds. There was a big crowds there at those times.
Well, Johnson ran into us.
Gentlemen, if you'll forgive me, good night, because Roosevelt, I was never there. You guys can talk about it, and everybody says I talk too much, so I'm tired. It's getting late, as the guy said, right?
Yeah, you're very, very important, though. You're very important.
Good night, Greg. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for Trey. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Good show.
Good night, Craig.
Good night.
But at Roosevelt, when Johnson was president, he came to Roosevelt, and they had a race for him. Well, they actually had two races. They had a race where the Democrats, the politicians on Long Island, were going to present the winner with a trophy, and another race where the Republican politicians were going to present the winner of the race with a trophy. Well, the White House got involved, and it was like an uproar. The president cannot be at a gambling event. It's bad for the presidency. It's bad publicity. We can't allow this.
Really?
We can't show this. And so they basically, the track is, down on, the Levy's office. You could see the track and everything. They had to put these drapes up so that Johnson could not see the track. And then he had to do his speech and talk with everyone in this room. And the drapes are up there. He can't see the track. They put the races went on, and the politicians, but he couldn't see the races and he couldn't be part of them. And that was orders from the White House.
Wow, that's really wild. That's funny.
All right. So next week, what we're gonna do is I'm sure Greg, or I'll get in touch with him. He'll get in touch with me. We're gonna try to do that next Thursday. I'll let you both know about them races that with the film, and then we can talk some more about what you and Freddie want to do.
Okay, good. All right.
So I'll see if I can't line 3 or 4 of them races up, the good ones, and then we'll do this again next Thursday.
One of the things that I saw that they're putting out a lot of new races out right now, and I'm going to talk about this because I've been watching them. They're showing the drivers sitting behind the horses, and it's amazing to me that they show the whole race with the drivers, and their hands are not even in the handholds anymore. The hands are above the handholds with the knuckles there. They're buckled there, and they're using that. And I watched Wally Hannessy while he in his race where I think it was his 12,000 win or something. And while he's scoring the horse down, they show that. And he's just putting the handholds back. And he's putting the handholds back. And just a little bit here, just dropping them back. And then when the race started, his hands are in front of the handholds, and his hands stayed there the whole mile. He never dropped back into the handholds. His hands stayed on that buckle up there for the whole mile. So I see, with the whipping rules that they have right now, why doesn't someone just take? If I was racing today, I would probably take a whip, and I would tape it up into the handholds, or I'd measure it off. And I'd use that whipping line to tap the horse to go, rather than worrying about anything about getting any whipping violations or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now, you guys have raced horses. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I got a feeling that that the reason he's holding those the lines by the buckle is because he don't have the handheld set right, and they should have been up there. They should have been put up.
Well, my understanding is it's so that they can get more line into hitting the horses because they can't use the whips. And
you have to. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think the handholds are set way back, so when they're going behind the gate, when they're sitting upright, basically upright. So the handholds are too far back for them. So they put their hands. They just latch onto the buckle, the buckle of the handhold, right, way up. Now, when they race, when they finish down the stretch, they just lean straight back for aerodynamics, and they have to keep their hands. They can't. They have to have both hands in the handholds and whip at the same time. So,
but Larry, I'm saying watch some of these videos. Their hands are never in the handholds. They never drop back into the handholds. Their hands are above the handholds.
Well, I don't know. I thought
and I've seen others where they do drop back in, but I've watched a couple where their hands are never in the handholds, never in the handholds in the whole mile.
Well, I thought that was the idea, that when they lean straight back, they can have their hands in the handholds and whip at the same time, because you can't you can't, from what I understand, you can't put the two lines in one hand and whip.
Right. No, like
Well,
we used
you
to.
know,
Yeah,
we all three of us drove with the lines in, one
One
hand
hand.
going down the stretch. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way I drove. I mean, so.
Well,
whacking with the right hand. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that left hand, and and then whipping the right hand. So
PM says, Larry, I remember the days where they used to have the handholds that were built in to the lines. I think these were three sets built into. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 3 sets. I've seen that.
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
I think they use
yeah.
that in Europe more so than they do here.
Yeah. I remember that. All right, can I go to sleep now, guys?
No. It's too early yet, Larry. Hey, listen, thank you very much for having us on,
We're
Larry.
gonna
We
do
really
this
appreciate
again
it.
Thursday. Next Thursday, I'll be in touch with Freddie. I'll let Freddie know if I got them things, and then we'll get in touch with Freddie. Will get in touch with you, and we can talk some more about what you want to
Yeah,
do.
driving in a race. That's talk about what we're thinking about during the race. Yeah, that's
All right.
Do we have a song yet?
Maybe I'll have it by next week. We'll see.
Okay. All right. I'll see you. I'm going. I'm hanging up.
All right, bye.
All right,
Bye,
Larry.
everyone.
Good night. Good night, everybody. See ya.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both. Okay, folks. Thanks for tuning in. And let me get rid of this one comment. And then we're going to tune out. I have to go to sleep. I'm very tired. Getting old is a bitch. Okay, thanks, folks. I'll see you.